Hello, hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. Today, we welcome our beautiful guest, Miss Selika Corely Funchess. She is an advocate for human trafficking, and she is a program manager for the Crisis Stabilization Unit at the Methodist Children's Home. Today, she shares the story of her daughter being trafficked and rescued. So y'all help me welcome Miss Selika Corely Funchess. Hello, hello, my beautiful people. As you can see, I am here with the lovely Miss Selika Corely Funchess, and I'm so excited to share her story with you guys on today. Welcome, Selika.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So with Woman to Woman with Joanne, if you've seen any of our shows, the way that we always start is we ask the question, where were you born and raised in this lovely state of Mississippi? So talk to us about where you were born and raised.
All right. I was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. I've lived here all of my life. I've traveled to other states, but Mississippi, Jackson especially, is home.
Awesome. The lovely Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right.
Look, when I was growing up, I grew up in the country. My daddy was like, don't you go out there to Jackson, Mississippi. Beautiful, wonderful state of Mississippi. I love it. So, Selika, tell me about your experience growing up here in Mississippi. What was your experience?
I had a great childhood. My grandfather was one of the first Black police officers in the city of Jackson.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And so I would get to hear the stories of when he was coming up and him joining the force. And we shared a lot of great memories, but life was great coming up as a kid.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell me about your college life? Where'd you go to college?
So I attended Jackson State briefly. My major was mass communications. It's amazing how that worked out.
Yes.
So now I am currently enrolled in Belhaven University.
Awesome.
I'm working on my bachelor's in social work.
Awesome. Bachelor's in social work. So talk to us. We are here because you have a unique, well, I don't want to say unique story, but you have a story that some people don't get to tell. Okay.
Exactly.
So I want to go, I guess we can just jump right into it. You are an advocate for human trafficking.
Yes.
And one of the biggest reasons why is because your daughter was kidnapped.
That is correct.
So can you kind of just talk with us about that? Tell us your story about your daughter being kidnapped into human trafficking and being found and all of the things that, that you've had to experience along the way.
Okay. So my daughter in this great state of Mississippi, Southern hospitality, we welcome everyone with open arms, even strangers. And in her particular case, these were strangers, people that she had met at a party, and they befriended her. Yeah. Come and hang out with us. You're really cool people. You don't have to pay for anything. We can go to the movies. We can go shop. We can go out to eat. Don't worry about anything. We've got all of that covered.
Right.
And so she did tell me, Mom, I met these new people and, we've been hanging out, and that's what I knew. And I remember my last words to her were, be careful.
Right.
Be careful. Because at the time she was 19, not living at home. And so, that whole,
yes, ma'am.
I'm fresh out of the nest and, let me go and explore and see what's out there. But at the same time, we have to teach our kids to be careful in those interactions. And so time went on, and from how it was explained to me was that the young lady was trying to get out of what we call the life. And in order for her to get out, she had to bring someone in.
Oh, wow.
And, she selected my daughter for whatever reason. Wow. And so again, she befriended her, and she'd given her a call one day and said, I'm sick and I'm not from here. I need to go and seek medical attention. Well, this is my friend. I have to go and help my friend. But this new friend introduced her to a whole world that she was not used to.
Right.
And so when she finally got there to her friend said, look, I need to go take a shower. Come upstairs until I get ready, and then we can leave. And she went upstairs, and the young lady offered her a can of Sprite, unopened can. And she said, I opened that Sprite and I drank from it. And when I woke up, I was gone. I was with people that I hadn't, she had met before.
Right. Wow. And so how did you find out that she had been kidnapped from there?
Yeah, of course, again, she was not living at home. She did have two other roommates. And so when they had not heard or seen from her, they phoned me and asked me, had I seen her, had I talked to her? And I said, no, I haven't. And I said, well, let me go and ask her baby sister, because if she's mad with the entire world, she will talk to her baby sister. And when I asked her, she said, Mom, I haven't heard from her. And that's when my antennas went up. And I just, after I was kind of frozen for a moment, and I said, no, I have to act. I have to do something. And so I did what, we were taught to do, right? Call and serve and protect. I have to dial 911 and report my child missing, which is exactly what I did. And we just had to hurry up and wait, because at that time they were taught that, she's an adult. She's probably just blowing off steam. She's just upset. Give it some time and she'll come back. Well, I gave it some time. I didn't have that much time to give, because I know in 48 hours, those leads start drying up. That investigation starts getting harder and harder to work on. And so I started getting these messages over in the night, and she's like, Mama, help me. Wow. And I said, tell me where you are. She said, I don't know where I am. And so, from one end, I'm being told that she's an adult, she's just run away. And now I have these messages that are telling me otherwise. And I'm like, no, somebody's got to do something. Somebody's got to do something. And so we went through the whole thing of not being believed. I'm trying to just plead our case. Anyone who would listen, just somebody, help us. And we did receive help from Arrested Soul, Eric Smith with Jackson Police Department. And he listened to me, and he went and he started investigating. And and I would interview the maids or the housekeepers at the hotel, and they said, yeah, I remember that group when they came in and they kept switching out rooms, and then they left. And so while he's on the inside interviewing and trying to get all the information that he could, and when he went back to trace the tag numbers, those tag numbers were for other vehicles. They were not for the cars
They
that they
stole
were in.
the tags.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so it was something that I never want to endure again. And something that I don't want another family to have to endure as well.
Right. So how long was your daughter gone? How long was she missing?
We really cannot pinpoint the actual date that she was gone, but I do know it was after Christmas of December 2012, and we recovered her January of 2013.
Wow.
Not in Mississippi, as most people would think. She was just blowing off steam. We found her outside of Orlando, Florida. Wow. With Sheriff's Department, they only had 2 deputies who were working that night. And because of the problems that they had reported in that area, they took it seriously. Right.
Well, Selika, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that, okay?
Okay.
All right, you guys, we're going to take a short break. We will be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne.
During a public health crisis, it can be hard for those facing domestic abuse to know what to do. Being confined in the same space as an abuser can increase threats to safety, and leaving an abusive relationship during a crisis can be even more difficult than normal. You can help. Ask them how they want to connect and be creative. Be supportive and believe them. Help them think through how to stay safe. Following these tips, you can help victims of domestic violence stay safe during COVID-19.
Stephen James Foundation presents the 5th annual Old School Party with a Purpose. Saturday, May 29th at the Mississippi Trade Mart Center in Jackson. On the deck, it's DJ Kid Capri.
It's DJ in the lane.
And the legendary Goody Mob. Grab your old school gear and mask up. COVID guidelines strictly enforced. It's DJ Kid Capri and Goody Mob at the 5th annual Old School Party with a Purpose. Saturday, May 29th at the Mississippi Trade Mart Center in Jackson. Benefiting Stupid Community Services. Get tickets now at eventbrite.com.
Okay, you guys, we are back, and we're still here with the lovely Miss Selika Corely Funchess. So, Selika, talk to us about when you guys rescued your daughter, and the after effects of her being rescued and I keep trying to say delivered, but rescued from human trafficking, because a lot of people think that, okay, they found her, they got her back, everything's fine, life goes on. Talk to us about the after effects of going through what she went through.
Yeah, and so I'll go back to the night that we had to reach out to the Sheriff's Department once we got a tip. And so we were sitting in my mom's house, and my mom's house was command central. You know, we had all the gadgets going. You know, if someone called us with a tip, we would, of course, phone it in, and we would try to see what we could do from home. And so we had exhausted almost everything by that point, and migraines and everything. And my mom said, you know, I have faith the size of a mustard seed.
Right.
That when I log into this website, which was her phone website, because if she had power, then, you know, we would be able to use GPS and locate her.
Right.
And like I tell people all the time, that mustard seed is something else. If you know how small that mustard seed is, and that's how much faith that we had. And she logged into that website and she said, I see my baby, I see my baby. And I said, where? And there was just this big red light and it was just flashing.
Wow.
And so I went to Google Maps and I said, she's at a hotel. And so I Googled the number for the hotel. At the same time, I have one phone here and I have the other phone here with the sheriff's department, giving them the case number, giving them all of the information that we had found. And so I asked the lady, I said, look, my daughter's missing and I have a tip that she's in your establishment. If I email you a picture, you know, can you give it to the deputy when he gets there? And she said, sure.
Awesome.
And so I emailed her a copy of the missing flyer that we were circulating here locally. And the sheriff's deputy, he called me, he said, I'm here, you know, I'll give you a call back in just a few. He went in and got that picture and he circled around and he said there was one female sitting in a car. He said, I got out and I approached that car. He said, when I made contact with that young lady, she said, will you please help me get away from these people?
Wow.
And he said, ma'am, if your daughter had not stepped forward and told me that I was the one she was looking for, that she, you know, she was the one that was missing, I would not have recognized her by this picture.
Wow.
Because not only had they drugged her throughout that process, they had altered her appearance.
Wow.
And so we're here circulating these missing flyers for what we last know her to look like.
And she doesn't even look like
She does not look like that.
Wow.
Not taking into account the weight loss.
Yeah.
You know, not taking into account that they had dressed her in a blonde wig. Not taking into account that she was wearing makeup and she does not wear makeup like that.
Right.
And so we never thought about any of that.
Right.
And so, you know, he said, I'll take her, you know, with me until you can get us the arrangements back to get her home. And I said, sure. And I could hear in the background saying, you know, you're not going to leave me here, are you? You're not going to leave me here, are you? And he said, no, darling, I'm going to keep you with me until your mom can make the provisions to get you home.
Yeah.
And so we were able to get her home within the next 24 hours. And what some people think, you know, they say, hey, you know, and you see these stories on Facebook and they say, hey, this child was found safe.
Yeah.
I think you should just say found.
Just found.
Because you don't know the extent of what was done to their mental.
Right. Right.
You know, people think that, okay, well, this person left being one person, they're back the same person. That's not what happened at all.
Right.
You know, the hypervigilance, you know, if a car passed the house more than once, and we lived on like a semicircle at that time. So people would pass the house more than once if they lost the house that they were looking for. And so she would call me while I was at work. Or if we went into a store or something like that and people would look and she would wear a hoodie on her head, I would tell her, remove that hoodie.
Yeah.
You haven't done anything wrong, you know, and it's just the pacing at night and being up all night. I mean, all the way down to the first day that she got home, she slept like 2-3 days straight. She just slept because she needed that rest.
Right. And what about, you know, I know they had her on drugs. Were they using drugs on her?
Yes.
So did she have withdrawals and things like that from the drugs, or was she like free from that?
She said that she would do it naturally. I would just wean myself off naturally.
Yeah.
And she did. She's a very strong young lady, very strong. And I my kudos and my hat goes off to her for, you know, even being a survivor and making it to this point.
Yes.
So yes.
Yes, awesome. So with her now, how is she doing now? Because how long has that been since she's been rescued? What year was that?
2013.
2013. So how is she now?
She's gradually getting there. She's not ready to share her story.
Yes.
And I dare not share for her because that's her testimony.
It's her story.
And so she's doing well. You know, she's doing well. You know, we'll talk about life and choices and decisions and so we do talk about some things, but that story she will not touch.
Right. And we can understand.
Exactly.
You know, and give her the space to do that.
And we don't want to re-traumatize her for
That's
that.
right, definitely. Well, Selika, talk to us about some things that we can do to help. What can we look for if there may be somebody, a girl, or even a guy who's
Exactly.
been trafficked? What signs can we look for? What can we, as citizens, do to help?
Yeah. And so as citizens, I know we want to do a whole lot, but the first thing that we have to realize is that there are a lot of myths surrounding trafficking,
Yeah.
that these girls and guys agree to do this type work, which they cannot.
Right.
And that's what makes it a crime. We have trafficking that happens within families.
Yes.
And so that's kind of hard
And
to
that's
identify
so-
unless you actually know their story.
Right.
But if you have a child who, truancy, if they're missing a lot of days from school,
Mm-hmm.
if they come in one day and they were being bullied and now they have the new Jordans or they have the new bags and you just notice a 360 in that child, there are some things that you may want to question.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the way that the human traffickers, I remember we talked before, is that they get other girls to, was that you? I know I interviewed a couple people before, and they were saying that they have girls in the class recruit other girls
Exactly.
into trafficking.
Exactly. And that kind of piggybacks off of my other answer about the young ladies who have been bullied
Yeah.
or an outcast, and now they have, the new bags, the new Jordans, and all of those things. Well, if that young lady who's being trafficked, they teach them to recruit. And so they go into the classrooms and they'll position themselves right there by that other child with that
Right.
low self-esteem. And they'll say, hey, you want to make some money real quick? All you have to do is go on a date just one time. You don't have to do anything. Go and eat dinner, go and hang out. And at the end of the night, this guy's going to give you all this money. But they don't tell them the dark sides of it.
Definitely.
They don't tell them that they don't get to keep any of that money.
Wow.
They don't understand that they'll have to go out there and recruit as well. So it's a life that's easy to get into and very difficult to come out of.
Right, definitely. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll come right back, okay? All right, y'all, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne.
During a public health crisis, it can be hard for those facing domestic abuse to know what to do. Being confined in the same space as an abuser can increase threats to safety, and leaving an abusive relationship during a crisis can be even more difficult than normal. You can help. Ask them how they want to connect and be creative. Be supportive and believe them. Help them think through how to stay safe. Following these tips, you can help victims of domestic violence stay safe during COVID-19.
Okay, you guys, we are back. We're still here with the lovely Miss Selika Corely Funchess. So, Selika, talk with us about what you do now at the Methodist Children's Home. And then I want to talk about what you do as an advocate for human trafficking.
Okay. Well, what I did was I asked God, I said, God, what was the purpose in that? What was the purpose? And he said that go through was not for you. It was for someone else. And so I am proud now to say that after I've been doing all the work, getting trained and just pairing with other agencies and being able to do the work, to work with survivors, to find resources for them. I'm proud to say that we have the first crisis stabilization unit specifically for minor survivors of human trafficking.
Wow.
Yes, in the state of
Awesome.
Mississippi,
That is
yes.
awesome. So that means that when somebody is rescued from human trafficking, they have a place to go with treatment and things like that. Is that right?
Yes, we can
Okay.
house up to 10.
Awesome.
young men and women. We
Awesome.
we will be a co-ed facility.
Mm-hmm.
We will make sure that for those 60 days that they're with us, we have a permanency plan, that they receive their therapeutic services, they receive their counseling, they receive RAP services. Everything is just centered around them. Everything is victim centered.
Right. The question I want to ask or say, because it's like, it's so big right now, but it's not that it's so big right now. It's just that it's coming to light right now. But it's like it's always been there, right at our back door, and we just really didn't know.
Exactly. It's always been there, because the one thing that a lot of people say sex workers and trafficking, they want to group them in together, and they're not.
Right.
The difference is a trafficking survivor has not consented to that lifestyle.
Right.
Force, fraud, or coercion is what has to be proven, unless they're a minor.
Right.
Minors cannot consent to sex.
Right, exactly. And so it's just so scary to think now, even though it's been around all the time. Do we want to say it wasn't as bad?
It's always been bad. We just didn't know what to look for.
Yes.
Again, we had to
exactly.
dispel those myths,
Right.
those rumors that are out there.
Right.
We had to get past that first, and then we had to do the community education piece,
Mhm.
and then we had to come up with resources.
Right. So educating the community and all of that. What is it exactly that you do as a human trafficking advocate that helps us and that helps the victims or the survivors? I'll say the survivors.
Yes, survivors.
Yeah. So the resources and things like that, how do you help them to get to those resources and all of that? Because if you can only house 10 in the place where you are, and if it's for children,
Yes.
what else is out there for the adults who've been rescued and brought back? What other resources are out there for them that will help them with their mental state, with their emotional state? Even physically, sometimes things have been done to them. What resources are out there to help?
Yes. Okay. And so we have the program that I am over for the youth ages 6 to 18. We also have the Center for Violence Prevention. That's a local resource. We have Advocates for Freedom on the Gulf Coast. We also have Jubilee Havens. We do not have a home right now, and I mention them because I am a board member.
Right.
And so what we do is we have MOUs with other agencies, and we provide transportation from one location to the next location to help get them that boost that they'll need.
That's absolutely wonderful. Okay, so what advice would you give to a parent or even any family member who's had someone who's been kidnapped or trafficked and they're back? How would you advise or help them to cope with their loved one who's been brought back from that experience?
Yes. So we know that there's no one-stop shop with the therapies and the services. We went through several therapists, when she made it back. She's still not ready, and so I don't force.
Definitely.
But I would encourage them, if the survivor is not receiving help, then that parent or that guardian should go and seek help as well. Because you're going to need the coping skills. You're going to need that understanding and that knowledge in order to deal with that survivor.
Right, exactly. Well, Selika, this has been great. It's great information and insight on your story about how are you as mom, how are you doing as far as, helping your daughter, even while she's coping now after so many years of being back. How are you coping with it? Now?
Yes. So I do have a counselor.
Awesome.
Great counselor. And I encourage anyone, if you're not feeling quite yourself, if you're dealing with something, if you're dealing with someone who won't seek counseling, then definitely you need to get in and see someone. You need to get those referrals and start that counseling.
Right.
Because at some point that other person will be ready. We just can't put a timeline or a date on that.
That's right. And you need to prepare on how to deal with when they need to talk or when they need to scream or whatever it is that they may need to do. I guess maybe some training. Did we talk about training or something for families? When when they have somebody who's been kidnapped and come back. Did we talk about that once before? You know, we were trying to do a talk show a long time ago. 2016, y'all. We've been trying to do this thing, and it's here.
But the counseling piece would be very important with
Yeah.
that, because if you learn those coping skills, you can teach that survivor those coping skills. You can help them through that. You can walk them through it. You can hold their hand through it.
Yes.
Because what they will need more than advice is just someone being there.
Yes.
Someone listening. And it doesn't mean that you have to respond. Just listen.
Just listen.
And then when they ask for your response, then you give it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, Selika, again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we are just so blessed to be able to hear a story of survival.
Yes.
And I know there are many more out there, but thank you for coming to share yours so that we can share it with others to let them know that there is life after crisis.
Yes.
You know, we just have to choose.
Choose wisely.
Amen. All right, you guys. Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. We look forward to seeing y'all next time. Bye-bye. If you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, please reach out to us. You can email us at joanne@womantowomanwithjoanne.com.